I am California of the past.
I am California of the past.
I am California of the past.
Hi, I'm Barbara Halliday, and I've lived in Hayward since 1986. And I'm here today at the Southgate Swim Club. This is a very popular spot in my neighborhood, the Southgate neighborhood. And my story today is about this swim club and how it was built back in the 1960s. My own involvement with this club started in 1989 when my husband and I, 3 years after moving to this neighborhood, became members of the club, and we were invited to do that after we got to know a woman named Clarice Roberts. And Clarice is the person who really founded this swim club back in the 1960s. So a lot of the story is about her. Clarice was still on the board of directors of the swim club in 1989, and she enlisted my help at that time. I started as secretary on the board and ended up leaving in 2003. So the swim club is still here today, still active as you can see, and a great place for kids to come on summer days. This club was built in the early 1960s. The neighborhood around it was started in the 1950s, and of course this was one of the neighborhoods that was built as part of the big post-World War II housing boom that came to Hayward. And in fact, this area was originally in the town of Mount Eden, but in the 1950s, when all of this housing started to be built and the houses needed the city of Hayward municipal services, the area was annexed to the city of Hayward. Well, Clarice Roberts was a young mother at the time. She had a degree from University of Berkeley, but she was basically staying at home raising her kids. And in fact, she had been born in Santa Cruz and grew up surfing down there in the 1930s. She was an early surfer girl, I think, long before the Beach Boys ever sang their song. And she loved to swim. She was an avid swimmer, and she felt that this neighborhood needed a pool. And in this era, when all of these housing developments were being built, not just here in California, but I think on the East Coast as well, where I grew up, a lot of neighborhoods were building pools to go with their neighborhood, as something for the kids to do during the summer. And in Hayward here, we have two of these. The other one is in the Fairway Park neighborhood. That's the Treeview Swim Club, and it is still operating today. And this one is the Southgate Club. And so what happened was Clarice decided we needed a swimming pool. She joined the Homeowners Association, got herself elected chair of that group, and kind of promoted this idea that this neighborhood needed a swim club. And the board agreed with her, and a committee was formed, and they started looking into where they might put such a club. Now, in those days, I think there was a lot more open space around than there is right now, and there were some locations. I know they did consider a location near where the current site of the Southgate Elementary School and the Southgate Community Center, but they thought that was a little too open, and they wanted something more private and quiet, which I think is a little ironic considering that they ended up building it right on a piece of property that was behind what was then called the Turner Ranch. And it also was right along what was then, I think, Highway 17. Now, you hear now the cars of the very busy 880 freeway that smaller Highway 17 has become. But so this land was located. It was felt that it was a good site. It's sort of on the edge of the neighborhood, right at the end of Magnolia Lane. And the family that sold the property to the swim club goes back in Hayward history. It was a man named, the family of, it was the Turner family, sorry. And the Turners had a daughter named Dorothy, who married a man named Bayless. So Dorothy Bayless, at the time the swim club was formed, and her husband owned this land. And they had two children, a daughter and a son. Their son Teddy is still alive today and lives in the neighborhood still. And so they agreed to sell part of their property to the club, and an option on the land was obtained. At that point, though, money was needed, and so what Clarice did was go around door to door and advertising about this club, offering people the right to sponsor the club so that the club could get a loan for construction. And apparently they got enough signatures. I know that some of this involved caravanning in cars with loudspeakers around the neighborhood to raise awareness. Certainly a lot of knocking on doors, but they did manage to get their loan. They were able to buy the property for $13,000 and commence building the club. The Orinda Pools was chosen as the builder, and I think Orinda Pools in those days actually helped groups like this to get the sponsorships they needed to get the loan to build the pool. And so the pool was started and it was finished in February of 1964 and opened in April on the day before Easter, I understand, was the grand opening. And my understanding is that the then Mayor George Oakes spoke at the festivities, and the Southgate Swim Club was launched. And in those early days, things were a little different than they are now, and there were a lot of mothers did not work as they do now, did not work outside the home, stayed home, so they had their summer days free, and kids were out of school and that needed something to do. So I think a lot of families spent, kids and their moms spent their summer afternoons here at the club. Friendships were forged. It really helped create a sense of community here in this neighborhood, I think. There were a lot of events they had in those early days. I understand luau's, dances. Clarice told of one event where they had a flaming diver dive into the pool from a forklift. I can only imagine. And in fact, it might have stopped traffic because these were the days before the sound wall that buffers, doesn't really do too good a job of buffering, but is there to buffer the pool from the road. That hadn't been built yet. So my understanding is you could actually see this flaming diver from the freeway. So those were some of the things that they had back then. And I know there have been so many holiday barbecues over the years and other events. One of the main things that this club sponsors is the Southgate Penguins swim team. And so thousands of young people in Hayward have competed in swimming competitions at this pool over the last 40 some years of summer swim competitions, and that's been a great boon for the pool and creates interest in membership. I think the club also offers swimming lessons for local children and has hosted a lot of elementary school end-of-year parties over the years for classes. So it's been a really vital part of this community, and I think that now things are changing a little bit, and it's becoming a little bit more of a struggle for the club to keep going. But they do still keep going year to year, and while membership is down, perhaps global warming will help boost it. I still think it's a very important part of this Southgate community, part of the city of Hayward community. This club offers some excellent job opportunities for teenagers during the summer, not just mindless jobs, but jobs where they really have some considerable responsibility as lifeguards. They learn to be responsible citizens, responsible for other people. One of the things I've always loved is to see the interaction between the older children and the younger children at the club, whether it's teaching them how to swim or coaching them in their swim team practices or just having fun and horsing around. It's a wonderful thing to see. So I would hate to see this club go away, but that's a little bit of the history of it, and we hope that it's here in another 45 years to talk about.